Thank you for joining the podcast for Beyond the Banter. Before we get started, you need to know some important information. If you need support immediately, please reach out to one of the following organisations: Lifeline on 131114, Beyond Blue on 1300224636, or Men's Line Australia on 1300789978. If your life is in danger, please call 000 immediately.
Hello.
G'day everybody, welcome to Beyond the Banter podcast. This is the initial series of conversations that we're going to have where we delve into the stories of myself and Chris. As some of you have already seen and the new people joining on, Chris had this wonderful idea of starting a podcast to start reducing the stigma around men's mental health, encouraging conversations and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. And we've taken that on full steam ahead. And in the first ones, we promised that we'll talk about ourselves, and that's what we're here today to do. And this particular episode, we're talking about Chris Ashford and his journey through his life, but some of the more monumental moments in his life around mental health. And thanks for bringing me on this journey. And it's been a long friendship, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about this. There'll be some difficult moments, and as we both agreed, we're here for each other. And if you're happy, let's dig into
Let's
it.
do it. Let's kick it off.
So, mate, to get the conversation started, tell me about your early life.
Early life. So, I guess it all comes down to family. I had a stepdad and mum. I lived with both of those. My mum and dad had split, I think, maybe a couple of years or just after having me. So they sort of moved in their own different directions. My mum met someone else, and my dad eventually met someone else. So we always lived with mum, and then go and see dad whenever. Grew up in Bondi. I went to Bondi Beach Public School there, and then the parents moved out west. So my mum and stepdad moved out to Blacktown. So this would have been early 90s. My mum and her partner had kids as well, so it was a young family growing up with there. I had two older siblings that had moved out of home. So I was, I guess, one of the eldest ones living there for the majority of time. It was tough. We went to Bondi and then we had to change schools. I remember going from living on the beach to Blacktown West Public School, and
Bit of a culture shift.
Big culture shift there. And for year 5 and still end of year 5 and 6 there, and I remember, it's just a massive difference. And I remember we went in and they were like, what do you call those classrooms on stilts?
Oh, the
Demountables, yeah. And it was hot, and so went to school there, and mum and her partner had alcohol issues, drug issues, more around marijuana and stuff like that. They always struggled. Mum struggled. She would she'd drink and mix medication together. There's certain memories that I have of her, and that no child should ever have. And he didn't really help the situation. He had issues of his own, and we grew up in this house in Blacktown, and sort of in the middle of nowhere, and we just had to live by those rules. And there wasn't, don't get me wrong, there's always meals and stuff like that, and but there'd be no problem with going out at night time, even at a younger age or anything like that. So I always had this constant fear as a kid because sometimes the neighbours would call the cops on my mum and stepdad, and I always have this fear when I heard sirens and whatever that they were coming to get my mum and taking her away. And I remember one day going to school and this police car went past and I heard the sirens and I ran all the way home because I thought she was the one or he was getting taken away. So it wasn't the best sort of upbringing. A lot of painful memories, stuff that kids just shouldn't have to go through. And unfortunately, because as a result of that, I don't really have a relationship with my mum. My stepfather passed away, but yeah, it impacted things throughout life. It got to a point where I just couldn't live with him anymore, and got to about year 10, or just before year 10, is when Dad said, well, you come and live with us. And they were living in San Susie. So again, back to the sort of water. So another shift, and ended up going to Endeavour High for year 10, 11, 12, which is where I met yourself. Yeah, my life, I feel from there, changed for the best. And I did a lot of things that I just don't think I would have got the chance if I'd stayed living in that house under those rules. I've met a lot of people, a lot of wonderful people. I've travelled the world. I've worked in different industries, held different jobs. I just don't feel like I would have got those chances if I was still under that roof. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been with you when you've gone and visited your mum and
yeah,
siblings, and
yeah,
so I understand your background. And you know, yeah, I've always found it hard to probably talk to you about that because my upbringing's been a bit similar. But what are some of the real challenges that you've faced as the oldest sibling under that roof? Like, was there a real defining one?
not really. It's just a lot of things. I remember I was the kid at school that didn't have enough money to go to the excursions or have a calculator and stuff like that. So I'd have to get them all funded enough to go in there and talk to the school counsellor, whoever they were at the time. And I was always that sort of kid.
Yeah.
But it was a bunch of small things, I guess, that really I feel that a kid shouldn't have that responsibility and that pressure put on them. My older brother, my older sister, I can't really talk for them, but they felt it as well. My older brother's probably the one with more memories out of the three of us.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good times, but there are a lot of bad times there as well. And, I got to a point there where I just wasn't happy at school, wasn't happy where I was. And I guess I was going down a bit of a path where I needed to make that change. And I did that. And I'm
Moved in
happy
with
I
your
did.
dad.
Yeah.
But that obviously leads into early adulthood, mate. Obviously year 10, 11, 12, and then early adulthood. And,
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah.
well cemented in San Susie environment at that
Yeah.
time. So,
Yeah.
tell me a bit about that period.
Yeah, look, it was a great transition. I think one of the best things about changing high schools, and it's always difficult for any kid to change a high school, no matter what, because you're leaving your friends behind. And maybe if you change schools in the same area, then it might be a little bit easy because you know people. But when you make a big change like that, it's hard. And I think one of the best things about going to Endeavour when we were there is that it was such a small grade. Like it wasn't a big number of students. It was actually quite close knit. And I sort of just found my groove at school, and I didn't have that at my old school. I was a bit of an outsider, but here I was like, okay, well, I'm sort of accepted by everyone here, and it's just a different life. It's a different lifestyle, and I went through school without any issues whatsoever. I wish I sort of pushed myself to play more sports and stuff going through year 11 and 12, but I didn't, and it did turn into a sports school. But I feel that if I had my time again, I would have liked to have applied myself to the sporting
I think
stage.
our skills probably is why they encouraged them to go to a sports school.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think so. But look, I had such a good time in those early years, and I left high school. The parents moved up to Queensland. I lasted a year up on the Gold Coast. I couldn't handle being away from friends and family, and I worked at Jupiter's Casino. There was my first job, and I was just running linen up and down on the floors, and I just couldn't handle being away from my friends and family, and I just made the decision to come back. I'm lucky my Uncle Mark and Auntie Debbie took me in quite a few times.
Yeah.
But they opened up the door for me to come back to Sydney and reconnect with my mates and find my feet and really work out what it is in life I was going to do. So I don't know if you remember, but when I came back down, I asked you to pick me up from Eddie Avenue, and you had your car and you come flying around, and I just got off the bus, and you're the first one to pick me up, and
But
we
I can
went
tell
to
a grin from ear to ear, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy that period during Queensland.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. It was a long 12 months, and look, it was good for me because I got out into the workforce and understood how all that sort of happened. But more importantly, my my Uncle Mark and Auntie Debbie opened up their house to me, and they got two young boys, and I've always treated them like brothers, and it felt like home. And as it turned out, that I moved in and out of there probably I don't know, a dozen times in my life, and I think I got the hint when they finally packed up from Sydney and moved to Queensland that the
you
door's
may not
not
follow.
open. The door's not open anymore. So I was actually quite lucky there. And then I just found my way in hospitality and started working in a hotel in the city. And bit by bit, I just got a promotion here and a promotion there. And yeah, that was the sort of younger years.
And working in the city, you started partying more, or we started partying more.
Yeah, that was a big part of it. And being in hospitality, and we both were in hospitality, there's always someone wanting to go and have a drink or go out or do whatever. That was just a regular occurrence, and it doesn't matter what night it is because we're all shift work. There's always someone wanting to go out and have a drink. So yeah, that's how I sort of got into that whole scene. And I would have been 19, or I was young.
I remember that with hospitality, mate. It was the theme of the industry at the time, right?
It was.
I remember finishing graveyard shifts and going out.
I remember working in the hotel, and someone asked me to do a shift in the restaurant, and I was like, I've never done anything like this before. And they're like, don't worry, we'll sort you out. What you got to do is take this plate to this table. Like, right. So we go and do it, take the plate to the table. I'd go back into the kitchen, and the maitre d' or the head of the restaurant running it goes, oh, well, number table 12 just brought you a shot, and they said just bring it in the back office here and have it here, don't have it out there. And me not knowing any better, I just bang, oh, beautiful, and carry on with the night. And that happened about 6 times during the night. So it was definitely part of the culture. It was definitely part of fitting in with the cool gang, I guess, so to speak. And I don't have any regrets with that whatsoever. It really was a time of my life, and I've still got mates there that I still talk to this day.
And then you mentioned you've travelled a bit as well.
Yeah, so I've been lucky. I've been very lucky. I always wanted to go to England. I just love everything I see about it. And my sister met an English guy and eventually got married over there. And the opportunity came up. We had Thai Airways stay at our hotel, and through the GM at the time, he was a legend of a guy. He's sadly passed away, but he's pulled me aside one day and he said, you want to go to England? Because I told him my story, and he's like, we can work something out for you to get there with Thai Airlines because they stay here and this and that. And next thing you know, he helped me with this air ticket over to England via Thailand. Yeah. So I went over to England and lived over there for about 2.5 years. In that time, mates came from overseas. I met a whole bunch of new people over there and just opened my mind up completely, just on a different continent and learning cultures and stuff like that. So end up going traveling a lot over there. Europe, Norway was my favorite place. I went there twice. Went to Amsterdam a few times with the guys, over the States, America and Italy, and did the whole thing. And we sort of did that and then came back, and I got bored, and I said to a couple of guys that were living in England, I said, hey, let's go do something else. So we decided to go to Canada, and we spent probably about 12 months over in Canada doing the ski season in Banff, in a national park in the middle of nowhere. And then sort of, came back home and just done a lot of domestic travel since then. I've been overseas a couple of times, but nowhere near as much as what I was doing back in the early days.
So that's a pretty good overview of you, I think. But
a lot.
Yeah, let's get into some of the reason why we're here.
Yep.
You made a comment early on that you said that mates were important, and then me picking you up from Eddie Avenue. Well, I remember we used to drive around a lot, and I'd pick you up in that same car, and we'd just say which way are we heading, north or south or where, and off we would go. Why was that so important to you? Because you've said that to me. You've said you used to cherish those moments. Why is that?
I've just always been a firmer of mateship and loyalty with mates, and I'm very lucky that even to this day I have a very close knit bunch of mates that I'm still in contact with, and we're going to be mates forever. So for me, it's always been important, and I don't know. I do think about it sometimes that growing up as a kid, and dad was involved with football and training and all sort of stuff. Whether that mateship and that camaraderie sort of rubbed off to me a little bit, and although I didn't play um, those sports, I still had that mentality. And I think that's how Dad sort of made me, or sort of grew up with Dad's sort of mentality around all that sort of stuff. So for me, especially in those early days, I moved school and I didn't know anyone, and we clicked straight away. And from there, it was just more just to escape what was sort of happening outside, and just focus and have some fun, and
So just you get away.
just to get away, to escape, really. Yeah. So I never really had that in, because when I changed schools, I was probably just a little bit too young to value the friendships and the mateships of it all. So as I got a little bit older, I sort of that's been one of my big things is once I know I'm going to be good mates with someone, that's it. You can't get rid of me.
So along that journey, you then started to experience some anxiety.
Yeah.
And tell me about that first occurrence and what you think triggered it.
Yep. So talking about traveling and going out and having a good time, I did all that. I ticked all those boxes. I partied pretty much everywhere, and never had one single ounce of anxiety or depression or um, anything abnormal. I was just a big drinker, and it would take me a couple of days to get over a hangover, and then by the weekend comes around again, it's like, yeah, let's go out. So, I'd never had any issues until I was 32 years old. So I'm 42 now, so it's 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, but never had any issues. And then world just came tumbling down. Um, I, I remember I was at work and I just couldn't focus. I couldn't do anything to feel like something bad was going to happen. And then I'd stress out and get really anxious, and this feeling just wouldn't go away. And because the first time I experienced it, I sort of let it go and let it go, let it go until it got to a point where I just thought the world was tumbling down, and this is my time, this is how I'm going to go out. And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to begin. I had nothing. All I knew was that something wasn't right. When I went and saw the GP, he's like, you've got anxiety, and tried to explain what it is and whatever. And I'm like, no, I want to go get a scan done on my head. I think something's wrong. Just, I don't have anxiety. I don't have any of that. And so we went and got all the scans, and he goes, mate, go do every test you can. So I got my heart checked, I got ear ring checked, and they all turned out nothing. And it all came down to anxiety hitting me head on. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand the world I was living in. I couldn't comprehend anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. And this is all new, like this. I've never experienced this before. So I just rolled the punches. I went back and saw the GP. I was going to see GP every second day because that's what made me feel safe. Going to see GP. So got to a point where they said, look, you need to go on medication. You need to stabilise and this and that. And so I went on medication, and I tell you that the antidepressant medications make it 10 times, if not 20 times worse, because it brings it on, and some people with the what do you call it, the side effects, it really rattles them. Anyway, I suffered very heavy side effects, and one of those was depression and negative thoughts. I've never had anything like that in my life, and sort of tied it down to the medication, and this is one of the side effects. So didn't really know what was happening. There was nights there where I just felt really unsafe, and I'd be crying and just couldn't control myself, and just thinking, I'm dying. This is it, you know. So, look, there's a couple of calls there where I did have to go to the hospital and get checked out by people, and that was all part of the learning process of it all. And again, I'll say it, I didn't have anything until I was 32. I was partying, I was doing everything, going to work with, and we just had a call on, just did a podcast on sleep, but you know, going out all night and then working all day, that wasn't uncommon back in the early days. So, yeah, so I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was that I couldn't sleep. I couldn't make decisions. I was unmotivated. I didn't want to live anymore. I felt like I was just miserable and I just didn't want to be here anymore. And that's
So
not
you
me.
had those thoughts.
Yeah. You just have these negative thoughts, and you know, it's all about. I sit here now, and it's all about learning and accepting and saying, okay, well, it's never going to go away, but what can you do to try and minimise the effects? Or
Do you think alcohol played a part in it?
so alcohol definitely played a big part in it for myself, and I used to drink a lot of alcohol, a lot of beer. I was having these anxiety issues every 2 years, roughly. Every 2 years, just pop up, and I'd be at rock bottom, and I just couldn't work it out. And after a couple of episodes, the doctors said, you know, alcohol's not good for you. This is probably one of the things that's triggering you a little bit. You need to cut down and this and that. I was like, okay, well, I can do that if that's going to help. And I went away on a holiday to Thailand. I was supposed to be there for 28 days. Like, it was a big trip, and I had a mate meet me over there from England. Shout out to Stewie. I know he listens to the podcast, but he came over and we were drinking those fountains of, you know, those big fountains of Heinekens, just drinking one after another and after another. And I remember I just was not right, and I tried to see a doctor over there, and funny enough, they gave me Rehypnol over there and said, you know, take this, this will calm me down, and did nothing. So I had to book a flight home and come home, and I still didn't want to give up alcohol. I still said, you know, I like having a beer and whatever. 2 years later, I had another thing, and from that point on, I said, right, no more alcohol. Stop drinking alcohol altogether. Just cold turkey, bang, stop. Which is a big shift for me. All my cousins, you know, family, drinkers, and this and that. I'm in sales, so you know, it's a hard environment to be in if you're a non-drinker, and you just got to manage it. But I didn't have anything until for 5 years. And I was like, beauty. It's you know, I came off all medications and for years, and um, everything was fine. And then out of nowhere again, this whole thing just come tumbling down. Didn't have a drink, did nothing, was trying to do all the right things, and it came crashing down again. And I said, right, it's time I need to get my hands on this thing, understand what it is, and really, one, talk about it with my mates and get them to understand, but more importantly, make sure that I'm safe, my kids are safe, and my wife are safe at home.
So was this when you worked out that you needed additional support, or was that there was support prior and this was an additional?
The thing is, I was having these breakdowns every 2 years. So I'd go through the whole psychologist, what's the word? Just with a psychologist, and they retrain your thinking and try and reverse your thinking pattern, cognitive behavior, I think it is. So every 2 years I'd do that, but by the time the next one would come around, I'd sort of forget the techniques and this and that. So after not having it for 5 years, I didn't remember anything. So it all came tumbling down again, and it really scared me this time because I didn't have kids. This is the first time I've experienced it with having kids. So that threw in a whole different level of anxiety. It was very, very hard this last time it came around. In saying that though, the kids were probably the thing that got me through. That was like my medicine. Like that, you know, they were sick there for a while. One of them was sick 1 week, the next one was sick the next week, the next one was sick, the next one was sick. They helped me get through that whole patch. And you know, just prior to me having this latest breakdown, I caught coronavirus, and I managed to dodge it for 2.5 years, and it affected my sleep, and I think that's what triggered everything. And it wasn't.
Yeah, because it was pretty quickly after that.
It was the same period. Yeah. And a part of that, I think, is I am too heavy. Like, I am too hard on myself. I do try and strive to be liked by everyone, and you know, I like to think I work hard, and that people think that I do work hard, and people can rely on me. And I think that just puts a bit of pressure on that I don't really need to put on myself, but I do. But the biggest thing that come out of it is I've just accepted it. And when I was going through that last episode, I was like, I need to make a difference here. I need to go out and spread the word and get in people's ears and tell them that, hey, if I can do it and get through it, then you know what, you're going to be okay as well. Not end up in the paper with another statistic or, hearing about how someone's killed themselves because no one knew anything was wrong and it was too late. And that's what rattles me, and that's what really annoys me and really pisses me off when I hear that. And that's the thing that I'm trying to achieve with this whole idea. And
which so far has been a rapid journey itself.
it has.
So,
I'm in Darwin.
Yeah. Mate,
I never thought I'd come to Darwin. I'm in Darwin filming podcasts.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's a little bit. You got your jumper.
Yeah.
Look, thinking back a bit of hindsight, when you started having those symptoms, do you feel that you had them earlier than that, and you just didn't pick up on it, or you're not sure?
It's a good question, and here's my problem. This is my issue. I don't practice good mental health, until there's a problem. When there's a problem, I'm struggling and I need help from everyone to help me get through it. But if I look after myself more consistently and look after my brain and mental health and really get down to the nitty gritty of, we've gone over a few things today, but sleep hygiene, someone mentioned meditating, breathing techniques. If you do all this stuff on a regular, consistent basis,
It can help.
it's going to help you. What you can't do, and I'm talking to everyone here, you can't get to that point where you think there's no return and think, hey, I'm just going to learn these breathing exercises and I'm going to be okay. No, that's rubbish. That's not how it works. Once you're at that point, you're too far gone for those breathing exercises to be able to help you. Now, these breathing exercises are great in general, everyday circumstances, and the science behind them and the whole process, it's scientifically proven. And I'm not saying anything bad about them, but it just doesn't work for me when I'm in that state of mind. So for me, I need to address it, not early, but I need to address it and bring it in as part of my life. It's health. Like, mental health is health. If I cut my arm and it doesn't stop bleeding, I'm going to go up to the hospital and get stitches and get it fixed up and whatever. It's the same thing. You need to take that same approach with your mental health and go, you know what? I need to look after it every day. You need to train your brain. You need to get your brain working for you and not letting it try to create something that's not there. And
we've been talking a lot the last 24 hours because we're up here in Darwin and we're filming a series of podcasts, and a lot of recollections have been coming back. So one of the things that I remember, and again in hindsight, is that a long time ago, and I suspect it's not long before you were starting to have some of these symptoms that you recognised. But I remember you saying to me once, and you seemed quite down, and I probably didn't pick up on it at the time like a good mate should, right? And we didn't talk about it. But I remember you saying to me, mate, you've got everything. And you said it, you've got a house, you're married, you've got this, you've got that. And I think you were single at the time, so it was well before your current life. And I remember saying to you, you're all right. And for whatever reason, we just went on a different path. So we must have just brushed it off. But now reflecting back on that, do you remember that moment? Or
bits and pieces of it. With you in particular, you had a car, right? Growing up, you're one of the very... I don't want to get you in trouble here, but I remember you driving around unlicensed and, you had the car.
Not on streets.
No, just, driveways. And then you had jet ski. You had a house and you had jet ski and you're getting married. And I'm here going, But I don't think there was anything there's no mental health. I was probably just jealous that you created this thing for yourself where I was stuck in limbo, not knowing what my next direction was. I think that's what it was. It never sort of got me down or anything like that. To be totally honest, I never thought I'd have kids. I never thought I'd be married.
Well, I think that's the conversation we had at the time. It was, we talked about you travelling, whereas I took it in
different path. Yeah, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. The thing I regret now is obviously not having my own place, and it's very hard to do that. But I've seen the world. And I've got a lot of cool stories out there that I'm going to remember until the day I die.
Probably some you don't want to share.
Different podcasts, different podcasts. There's a plan in the works, different podcasts. But look, no, yeah.
You mentioned Thailand.
Yes.
How was that for you when you were overseas and you were struggling to get access? Was there panic about getting home? What did that throw a different element at you?
Yeah, it did. It did because one of the biggest challenges is English, like talking English, and getting to the airport was, a good hour drive. And when I knew I had to get home, I felt a sense of relief that I was going home. And the good thing was it was Bangkok to Sydney, so I knew once I got on that plane, the next step I'm getting off is in Sydney and going home. So it wasn't as bad coming home, but the whole period and the whole duration of anxiety starting to it getting better is around about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah, right.
That's how long it takes for me to get back on my feet a little bit.
And then plus the process, and then you were recycling back through that.
Yeah, and for me, it's agitation. You can't sit still. The time seems to slow down. You think you've 10 minutes or half an hour's passing. Look back at the clock; it's 30 seconds. But that just keeps happening over and over. So your day never ends, and all you want to do is just the day to pass, so that you can in your head go, okay, that's just another day. Hopefully, I feel better tomorrow. But it's a step forward to getting better, and you just want that to speed up. You're uncomfortable, like physically sick, headache, all that sort of stuff, which is a whole new another episode, because I have the scientific reasons why the body does all that. And when we go over that, it's going to blow your mind. You think when you're anxious, you shake. Well, there's a reason why you're shaking. Your body's doing something. So it's for me, it's for understanding that. But in the time and in the moment, I just have to be left alone. I don't want to be left alone. My wife has looked after me all these years, and when this happens, she knows when something's wrong, and she's my rock through it all, and she helps me, she gets me through it. It's extremely hard on her. Just look after, in this last one, she had to look after the kids, just look after herself. She's got her job.
I want to come back and talk to you about family. But you mentioned medicines before.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is you had one medication that wasn't supporting you.
Yep.
And then you changed.
Yep.
Was there a difference between the medications that you felt the other one was more beneficial for you?
Yep. And anyone that goes on any antidepressant medications, they tell you that it could take 3 or 4 times for you to find your right medication. So, you've got to find the right one that works. Lucky for me, the second one I went on worked. And I use that every time I do have these episodes. I do need to go back on them, unfortunately. It's a personal decision to go on them. The exercise thing, the sleeping thing, those little things, I'm too far gone for that to help me right now. It's something you can use once you're sort of on the medication and you can feel yourself getting better. Then you can start doing those other little techniques. But you've got to find the right medication. It's not just one. Like you're going on multiple medications. The medication that I actually go on gives you really bad side effects. You get a chattery jaw. So your jaw's like going 100 miles per hour. You get cramps in your jaws. You sweat.
Is that ongoing, or is it just an initial?
It's ongoing for like maybe the first 4 weeks, maybe. It's really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. Some people get insomnia. I get insomnia with it. So you've got to take something to counteract that, so that you can actually relax and try and calm down a little bit, which is which are medications that globally they've been cracking down on because of dependency on them. So doctors are like, we don't really want to give them to you because we don't want to get addicted to it. And it's like, well, I need them. This is what this drug's for. I need them. And I have to prove my case over and over. I stopped drinking 5 years ago when the doctors told me to do it. I stopped. That's one big thing that I've just cold turkey. I've had them before. I stopped. I had them again. I stopped. I had them again. So you've got to go through this whole thing to justify to doctors or the professionals that you need this medication. And for me, the medication helps me get through.
And that helps you reset. It starts your reset.
It allows me to start to function,
Yep.
not sit on the lounge crying. Yeah, it allows you to relax, takes the edge off, and you can actually do things. Now, for me, and this is not everyone, but for me, my battle is if I'm sitting on the lounge, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to go and do that. But I push myself to get up and go and do it. Even if it's a small thing, take the cup that you've just drank out of there and put it in the sink. I'll say, no, I need to go and do that. And I'll get up and go and do it. I've got birds or a couple of fish and that sort of stuff. I'd go talk to them or go clean the cage. I'd say, right, I have to do this today. And I have to push myself for it. I don't want to. It scares me. I'm going through all this stuff. But, you know, you have to push through it. And that's a key. That's a key to it all. Once you start pushing through those little wins, that's when it gets a little bit better. And then you realise that you're sleeping a little bit better. You might have slept an extra 15 minutes than what you did the previous day. Sleep is a big thing for me. When I have these episodes, I'll go to bed roughly at the same time, but I'll wake up at the same time every day for 6 weeks, so longer, 3 months.
So you almost get like an element of OCD about certain things.
Sort of, yeah.
To bring that routine in.
Sort of, yeah. Now, I don't suffer from it. It goes away. It gets better over time. But, yeah, it's scary. It's really scary. When I had COVID, I didn't sleep for 5 days. Now, I don't care who you are. If you haven't slept for 5 days, you're in big trouble mentally. You're going to feel like
hallucinating.
Well, I would have been, and I had to go get professional help. And when I get into that situation, that is my plan. If this isn't working, I've got to go and see someone at the hospital. I'll go and get checked out by a doctor.
Yeah. So
to impact it, COVID was when this last time it happened. I had COVID. I couldn't go into the hospital because I had COVID.
Yeah.
I couldn't go and see anyone because I had COVID. It had to be done over the phone or whatever. Doing it over the phone and sitting down with someone face to face to talk about what's going on is two different things.
But you didn't get a lot of COVID symptoms.
I did in the first couple of days.
Yeah, okay. So, but that manifested through your mental health?
Yeah. Triggered something mental health. And there's all sorts of research and stuff going on to try and work out the connection there. And maybe it's not connected, I don't know. But it's very scary. And this is why I'm doing this. There's all sorts of risks associated with doing something like this. When you're telling your own story and telling everyone out there what your daily challenges are, it's a big risk. And when I thought about doing it and talking to you about it, I sat down and I worked it out, the risk or reward, and I went through it methodically and went, you know what? I may lose some people along the way because I don't want to have those conversations with me. I don't know how to approach it. Then I'm going to gain a lot more where people want to come to me and have chats and see what I can do to help them or vice versa. So for me, that just outweighed it all. I'm not completely cured. I never will be. But what I have done is I've accepted it. But it's not going to go away.
So you mentioned a few of the steps that you've done to get through each of the bouts that you've encountered.
Yep.
What's some of the very first actions you do? And then how do you expand that into what's your support network?
Yep. Good question. What we're about to talk about now is the message I want everyone listening to this podcast. I don't care if you fast forward the whole thing, but this part I want you to listen to right now because for me, this is what helps me. And I feel this is the right steps that's going to help the next person that might be struggling with this. First things first, you have to tell the people that are in your life what you're going through. Whether that's your wife, your partner, whatever it is, you need to be upfront. You need to tell them what's going on so that they're aware and they know that your behaviour may change because of what's going on. Second thing is book a doctor's appointment with a GP. It has to be, that's one of the very first steps because GPs these days are under the pump and you're very lucky if you can get in a GP within 3 days of seeing someone. If it's that bad, and it really is that bad, there's support numbers you can call. Beyond Blue, Lifeline, there's numbers you can call to have a chat to people. I don't want to give the wrong messages here, but when you are like I was and in that state of mind, those sort of support centres don't really help me because they just try and get you to breathe and do all this sort of stuff, but I'm past that. So for me, I need to see a GP. If I can't see a GP, I need to go and see a doctor up in hospital straight away. Even if they say, hey, you're just having a panic attack, here's some medication to you, go and see your GP or calm you down, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
You need to do that.
So that immediate response.
Immediate response. You can't sit in your room, you can't lay in bed, you can't think that it's just going to go away overnight. It's not. Like learning and educating yourself on it. And although when you're in it and you're caught in it, you might not think that you're learning it, but when you come out of it the other end, you've learned so much about it. I'm not ashamed of my safety plan. I'm not ashamed of telling people what I do when I'm in that situation, like I've just told you now. If that's what I need to do, then I'm going to do it. From there, there's a couple of things that you can do. You can go to hospital. They can assess you, and then mental health has come a long way. It really has in the last 5-10 years. There's now acute mental health teams that treat you as outpatients. So they can send you home, say, hey, listen, someone's coming tomorrow to have a chat to you. They're going to come to your house like 5-10 years ago. If you think that that is enough to get you through and that your partner or your wife or your support at home can look after you, then do that. If you can't, you tell the hospital that you can't and you don't want to leave the hospital. They'll admit you, they'll put you in a hospital, they'll put you in a quiet area for you to calm down, monitor you, and then work out the next steps. And then from there, you're referred to psychologists, psychiatrists to have a chat about it. But it's not going to go away overnight. You're going to cry, you're going to feel like crap, you're going to feel like you're worthless.
And you've got to try different things, right? Because what works for you may not work for me. But you've got to try it and find what.
Yes and no, but after what we just went through in this other podcast, which was really cool, and we learned a lot of things, I think there's 3 things there that you need to do. And it doesn't matter if you're this person, that person, whatever. And one of those is exercise. I've written them all down. Exercise, making sure that you use your bed for only sleeping and not laying in bed and whatever. And the third thing is get some sun. I think they said in the first 30 minutes of waking up, you should go get the sun because that will help you wake up. Things like that can help everyone. You line everyone up, go try this, go try that. You might not want it. You might think it doesn't work for you. That's going to work for you. And then from there, look, you've just got to trust the process. You've got to trust that the professionals are there. A lot of them are, here's my number, call me anytime. Call me anytime. And you just have to do that.
So going on from there, you mentioned the support first. Your partner, your wife, whatever.
Yeah.
What does your support network look like, and how do you manage that support network?
Yep. So support network is always changing. And there's a couple of different ways I look at that. 3 main sort of cores or pillars, whatever you want to call them. One is my family, my immediate family. Getting the support from everyone, knowing that, hey, look, Chris isn't feeling too well. He's dealing with anxiety at the moment, and for them to understand that and go, you know what, okay, well, we need to do whatever we can because 9 months out of the year, he is the best bloke on the world. He loves those kids. He does anything for us, blah, 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 blah. So it's the family. Second thing is mates. You've got to have a close-knit group of mates that you can tell what's going on. No matter what. Guys, this is what's happening. I'm not feeling well. Encouraging them to talk back and message back and make sure they check in on you on a daily basis. The third thing is work. You've got to have a work environment where the company that you work for understands that these things in life are unavoidable, and when it does strike, not go into a shell and just go, I'll just go away, but tackle it head on and approach it head on. For me, I'm very lucky. I've got my boss is very supportive, and he got me through this last little bit at work where, the last thing you want to do is work. You don't even want to think about work. But we had these discussions, and I tell him this all the time, and I thank him all the time because he pushed me back to get back to work. Now, he wasn't pushing me to get back to work because he wanted a bum on seat getting sales in. He's doing it because he wants to help me bounce back and get back to who I am a lot quicker. Yeah. When that happened, I felt the love straight away. And I realised that this is the place where I want to be. And the support that they offered through that period was unbelievable. So
On
there's
a
a few
human
things.
level, not a company level. It was a
Human level.
So the 3 points are your immediate family,
Yep.
your mates, and your workplace.
Yep.
Um,
Work colleagues, workplace.
and
Yeah.
they'll that can help you through.
Yep.
But if you shut down one of those elements, it can
Yep.
hamper your
It'll make things worse.
progress.
Yep. It'll make things worse.
So, how do you feel about life today? You know, what's going on today? You know, you're working on a lot of stuff.
Life today. I have a very good outlook on life. People that know me, I've got 2 young kids, and they're just my world. And the little girl's growing up so fast, and it's just I'm very happy.
She's very independent, mate.
She's very independent. She knows she's got daddy wrapped around her finger already. I'm just going to have issues. I'm very happy. I really am. I don't like it when I go through these anxiety issues and depression, and I don't like it. But I have to get through it because there's a lot of people counting on me. My 2 kids are counting on me to come home every day. My kids are counting on me to put food on the table with my wife and supporting. For me, and I talk to my wife about this a fair bit, and this is one of the most like this. For me, I feel like I have succeeded at life because I've broken the cycle from the way my parents treated me living under their roof, except for dad in that later stage. I'm talking about my mum and stepdad, to what my kids currently have. And the love that they have, that I would do anything for them, no matter what. I'm going to stop drinking because it's going to affect me with mental health. So I don't want your kids exposed to that, so I'm just going to stop. Would my dad have done that? Would my mum have done that? Would my stepdad done that? Probably not. But I've broken the cycle. Those kids mean everything to me.
And I can vouch for that, mate. I've seen you with them.
They mean absolutely everything to me. So for me, life is bloody great. I get to see you. I'm up here. Like this podcast, this whole idea. I'm just blown away. I was at a ticket data as a distributor, one of the ones we use it at Qirx, and they're a really good bunch of people. We know Tony Lamb, friend of the podcast, works there, and it was a Melbourne Cup thing we had last week or the week before, and I had so many people from Dicker come up to me and talk to me about this.
Mate, you've started a momentum.
They're coming up and they're talking to me, people I haven't spoken to in a long time, saying, what can I do? How can I help? This is my new chapter. You know, look.
So going back to, you've mentioned Amanda a few times.
Yep.
So she obviously is a major support.
Yep.
Through each episode. So now you're going through this new chapter.
Yep.
You're up here in Darwin.
Yep.
How is she supporting you in the new chapter?
She just lets me go and do what I need to do. And it's hard to find because every day is a struggle with kids. You know, if I'm not there for a couple of nights, it gets very hard. Plus other personal issues going on at the moment, it makes it very hard. So she supports me. It's a hard one to explain. She's always been there for me.
But obviously your first point of contact.
Amanda? Yeah. She knows something's wrong.
Does she approach you, or do you advise her?
It could be at the same time.
Yeah. She might say she's noticed something. Or...
Yeah. If I can't sleep and I'm having really bad thoughts and whatever, I go to her straight away. She's my first person, and she's always there. She turns up every single time, and I can never repay her for that.
So why do you think men can't do that? That's a tough question, and I didn't prep you for that one.
I don't, and this is the whole reason why I'm doing this podcast, because I don't understand that myself. Why can't men do that? Why can't men...
Is it a cultural, ingrained, generational thing?
I don't know. I wish I knew. Because if I knew, I'd be telling everyone what the answer was. But through talking and educating yourself and knowing what the steps are that you should take to make sure that you're in a very safe place, and that's the only thing we can try and do here and get people opening up and thinking like that. But I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think anyone does. Apart from where the caveman, where you have to go and do this and do this.
Yeah, we've got to be tough. So, I've probably just answered the question, but what do you think is a common myth from your experience in mental health, men's mental health?
A common myth that I constantly think about, or people say, is I've had a hard day at work. I'm going to go have a beer, take the edge off. I'm going to go do this, take the edge off. It doesn't work like that.
It buries it
Buries it.
till
It-
later.
Yeah, and it might only help that. It might only do it for a short term, but it's still there. So that's one of them. Two, that there's no support out there, or people think that you're a girl, or you're a wuss or something
You're
like
weak.
that. Yeah, you're not.
Mm.
If anything, it's quite the reverse. It's actually quite courageous to talk about it and be brave about it and say, I don't give a shit what you think about me.
Mm.
This is me. This is who I am. These are the issues that I have. I don't care. But I'm not going to let you judge me and have your own opinions formed of me because you think that a man shouldn't behave in this way.
So when
You
you
can't, and you can't get angry at people like that. You can't. You can't. You've got to say, okay, well, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. Why? We've all got mouths, we've all got ears, we've all got brains, we've all got the same emotions, we've all got everything. Why do you think it's not okay for a guy to talk about his feelings? I don't get it.
next time I meet you somewhere,
Yep.
and I ask you how you are,
Yep.
and you say good, thanks, should I leave it at that? Go, no problem. Let's talk footy. Do we need to dig deeper than that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, good thanks is a very... We're taught...
Generic.
How are you? Yeah, good thanks.
Yeah.
How you going, mate? Yeah, good thanks. Or good day. It's a natural response. But I think you need to go deeper, but you need to do it it needs to be a soft approach. You can't just go there and go, oh, tell me how you thought about, you want to go this and go and do that. You need to, one, you got to build trust with that person. You got to know that they got your back and they're not going around talking about it behind your back,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. So you got to be able to trust them 100%, and they're not making fun of you behind your back, like I just said. So, so I think you do need to. I think you do need to go beyond the banter and crack down on it and say, okay, well, hang on, what is going on at home at the moment? And that person will go, oh, my wife did this, and you turn around and go, yeah, that happens in our house every day of the week. That's not uncommon. Oh, really? That's what happens at your house? Well, you go and ask this guy. I'm sure it happens at his house.
Like, I won't go into detail. We had that exact moment a couple of weeks ago.
We did. And then you think, okay, well, I'm not alone here.
Yeah. Well, mate, is there anything further you want to add about your journey?
Not really. I mean, look,
I'm sure over the next few podcasts, little bits and pieces will continue to come out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot that comes out, and this is to provide the listeners with a connection to myself. That next time you see me out and about, or you see me at an event or whatever, don't be afraid to come up and talk to me about it. Open up, come and have a chat. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear correspondence back through the website where people want to ask us questions, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where this thing goes. It's taken a lot of hard work to get it to where it is. I think we're sort of cruising at the moment. We've sort of got things under control. We've done it without you, Tony, so you might be out of a job, mate. But look, I shouldn't say that because we haven't cut anything yet. So you still got a job, Tony.
Yeah, just hang on,
Still got a job, mate. Reach out, have a chat. Come and talk to me.
I really appreciate you talking to me pretty raw.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of that story. So it was, it's always hard to hear other people's going through, different things at different times. But I think the thing that's always been great is we've always been, even when we've had those times apart, we've been overseas, we've always been able to just reconnect instantly and offer each other support. And I believe that'll continue for another long time. But we are here for the podcast, and you've nominated Gotcha for Life.
Yep.
So tell us a bit about Gotcha for Life and why you chose that.
Yeah, I really like what Gus Wallen's doing. He's such a well-known figure in different circles, whether it be media, football, or whatever. And I think that him being a spokesman for men's mental health in general is a really good thing, and I think it's going to hit a lot of athletes and people in the media sort of industry where he's taken a stance on it, and he's saying zero suicides. and he's going back to grassroots, and he's looking at community, he's doing stuff in the community, and trying to change the stigma around it all. And I think his term is mental fitness, so changing words around to make it more adaptable. And look, the reasons I chose them is because I feel that they have a connection to rugby league, and I feel like I do as well, with cousins playing, and family history playing for teams as well. So I really feel like this is the right one for me, and I just love the name, the Gotcha for Life. Doesn't get any stronger than that. I'm really looking forward to seeing where we can go with Gotcha for Life. They're a really busy organisation, and it's ongoing. But I really want to see what we can do together in the future. I've got a lot of ideas. So yeah.
Thank you. And obviously on our website on beyondthebanter.org is Gotcha for Life
Yep.
links and information for more information, as well as Lifeline, Men's Helpline contact numbers.
Yep.
And those links will take you through to online support services if anyone needs it.
Yep.
But we'll wrap up. And
Awesome.
Next episode.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, mate.